Steve Taylor with Think HR and Insurance Services. We design benefit plans you understand so that you can actually use them. So, when I'm working with employers that have medical benefit plans, a lot of times we do get questions that are difficult to answer. Employees might stump you as far as asking a question that you're not sure. Should I answer it? Should I not? Am I crossing a boundary here? We're going to chat about that. And the specific question we're going to work on today actually came in this week. So it was, why did my claim get denied? Well, that's a popular one. So the premise is an employee went out, got some type of service done, thinking that the plan would cover it, and the claim was denied. Why it was denied? Hey, not really sure. The employee doesn't know. So, what is it that you do in that scenario if they're sitting in your office or they've called a meeting where they want you to answer? So, the thing is, you're not responsible as the employer to give them an answer, but you do want to, well, you should feel responsible to give them a message back or a path. One of the best ways to start is to clarify the process. With the claim denial, what happened? Don't get into specifics of what you got done, but you went to the doctor and did they submit the claim? Were you supposed to submit a claim? Because generally, what happens with most claim denials is there was some sort of paperwork issue. A lot of times, if it's a very not super common claim, then there are times when a pre-authorization may have been needed. Maybe the employee didn't follow all the instructions to a T, but there is ways that you can help them out, right? So one of the first things you want to do is ask them, well, so let's clarify the process. So typically you go see the carrier. You go see the provider. The provider gives you a service. They invoice you for that service. And then they generally will send the claim out to the insurance carrier. And then you're left over with whatever's there, right? So one of the first questions, if you want to dive deep into it, was, do you know if it was in or out of network? Why is that important? Because if it's in network, a little easier. All right, they're in network. They said they take the plan, no problem. But a lot of times with chiropractors, with physical therapy specialists, it might not be in network, and they may just be like, hey, we don't actually take insurance. And that's why your claim was denied, right? So you want to make sure that you're starting to get them to think about some of those things without getting into the specifics of the treatment that they got. And again, you don't necessarily want to answer their questions, but you want to help them understand the process and help them assign the next step that they need to make. One of the first things is, okay, so how do you know that your claim was denied? Did they send you a letter? Okay, generally, the carriers will send you a letter that deny you a claim. It'll have the medical billing code on there. It'll say why it was denied. And then from there, you may want to work with your provider, go back and say, hey, we want to get you paid for this. What is it about the service that we have that made this claim not go through? Did we put the right medical billing code on there? Did we? Right. So sometimes it could be just an administrative error, a clerical error in the back office that has nothing to do with you as the employee. But it also could be the employee just didn't follow the right steps. And if that's the case, you're going to want to clarify, because there's going to be two conversations you're going to have to guide them through. There's the one that they have with the provider. There's the one that they have with the insurance company. And they're going to feel like they're going back and forth and back and forth. And they come to you hoping for you to help solve their problem. But you're not necessarily a concierge health insurance service, right? You might, if you do have a health advocate or some other tool like that, and this happens all the time, then we need to talk about that in another video. But if you're just dealing directly with the carrier, you're going to want to get the information of what's the claims process from the carrier. Generally, it's like a form, something like that. Then you want to take it to the service provider, and then that employee is going to be responsible for the agreement that they had to take those services with that service provider. So ultimately, the employee could be left on the hook. They might feel a little bit sour about it, which is understandable. But you do want to be able to coach them through that process and say, hey, in the future, one thing we can do is, if you have a procedure like that, you can be a little bit more proactive, and we can see if we can get a pre-authorization from the carrier. Now, again, that's not HR's responsibility, but if you can help guide them to the resources there. Or, with my clients, quite frankly, if my clients reach out to me with this problem and they don't know how to solve it, and I can't quite figure out what the issue is, we already troubleshooted a couple of things, they're still having difficulty, get on my calendar. Let's chat about it. Let's figure it out. Because, at the end of the day, we want to get this person thinking about whatever it is that they're hired to do. all day. Not dealing with insurance carriers, because believe me, insurance carriers are really only open during working hours most of the time. Like a lot of the claims questions, a lot of the things that you would need to get from the service provider, they might only be open till 5 or 6. And that medical billing assistant, whomever it may be, they might only be in on Thursdays, every other Thursday, right? You never really know. So it can be a frustrating process. But again, the best way to handle it is one, understand the process that they went through. Okay, you got a claim. How do you know it was denied? Okay, you got a letter from the carrier. Once you got that letter from the carrier, what did it say was the next step? Did you share that with the service provider? What did the service provider then say? Right? And then ultimately, it is your responsibility as the employee, the employee who sought out the services. You're ultimately liable and responsible for the agreement that you have with that service provider. And insurance is there to back you up and pay for the things that the plan is designed to pay for at the cost share options that they have. So if you find this is a common problem with your employees, then it's probably time to do a little bit more employee education. It might also be a sign that your plans don't quite cover the needs of the employees and we need to reevaluate a plan design. A lot of times when we adopt a group and they switch to us, one of the first things we do is a full diagnostic of the company. We look at the employees' demographics. Are the plans affordable? If somebody's making 60 grand a year, they're not going to probably want to pay $4,000 a month for a health insurance plan, as there's not enough money to go around potentially. So we want to design plans that make sense for the employees. We want to pick plans that make sense for how that group actually uses the plan, which is at times difficult to do. But that's where, as a professional, a broker, somebody who kind of looks at this stuff all the time, that's where we come in and we figure out, like, okay, what's the actual risk pool we have here with the employees? How do we design this plan in a way where the employees will feel like it's a benefit? Because just because somebody's 50 years old doesn't mean that they're not in the best shape of their life and they only go to the chiropractor all the time. Doesn't mean they're using the plan day in and day out constantly, right? They may not ever use it. There may be some people who use it for a very specific reason. Oh, we got this great chiropractic service like that we have where it's 25 visits a year. I go and see my chiropractor every 2 weeks. I love it. That's all I care about. That's a great copay. And you want to keep that person happy? Great, keep that plan. But there's also other plans that may have benefits that uniquely fit the group. And you'll want to pay attention to all those things, which is why it is important to have a feedback loop. Take an instance like, somebody asking you, why did my claim get denied? Going through that process does give you insights into how somebody may be using the plan or thinking about the plan. But ultimately, if the group is above 25 employees and we can get something like a level funded or self-funded plan where you're able to get access to some of the claims categories that they have, sometimes it's easier to see how do the people actually use the plans and continue to iterate and make better plan designs as we go along versus just shooting in the dark, wondering why we're getting such high renewals year over year. And if you're under 100 employees and you're on age banded ACA plans, then you're not typically going to notice the renewals are higher or lower. They're usually fairly stable year over year because it's the law of averages for that state and that carrier. I mean, it's kind of like the baseline of plan costs. And if you're on a PEO, right, you move from being an ACA to large group plans administered by a PEO. You might see all of a sudden one year, hey, how come we got a 20% renewal? Why did we get a 35% renewal? Well, it's because your group paid X in premium and had Y in claims. And if it's anywhere north of 50%, now all of a sudden it's like, okay, now you're starting to creep into the profitability of the group, right, for the insurance company. So they're going to have to balance that stuff out some way, shape, or form. And they do that with renewals. I hope this was helpful. If you're getting questions like, why did my claim get denied? And there's other questions that are in that same topic tree, my recommendation is you want to listen to them. You want to write those things down. And hey, if you do want to set a strategy session with us, we can do 30 minutes where we chat more about your group's plan designs, some of the complaints that you're hearing from the employees about how their claims are denied, or any other topics around the employee benefits. I'd be happy to help you and hear you out. So Steve Taylor with Think HR and Insurance Services. Again, I hope this was helpful and best of luck.